Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's live stream. It is question time, a time for you to ask any question you like about games development, Unreal Engine, or anything you really want at all. We're totally open to answering all types of questions we get. How it works is you just put into chat your question and I'll try and catch as many of these questions as I can in the time frame of our live stream. We'll go for about an hour or so. If I do miss your question, don't fret, just put it into chat again and I'll try and catch it the next time around. And apologies ahead of time if I do miss your question. I'll do my best to try and catch them all. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Look, I've got a fan on. Hopefully it's not too loud on a microphone. But let me know if you need me to sort something out. And yeah. Okay, so how are we all doing in chat? I see we've got who we got here. We've got Super Daniel Grego. Hello. Got another Ryan, hello. Robert Stewart, Overcore, Astro Cricket, Joe is not alive, Ed Wilson, Red Squirrel, Overcore, Tasty Snack, hello, how are we all doing? Hope everyone is all safe and well. So let's just jump into Unreal now and see what we got coming our way. Okay, so take a swig of this and we'll see how we go. Okay. I have a question from Overcore. I have a question. Could you do a tutorial on how to upload files like images from your computer into Unreal Engine 4 in the actual game so that the players can use custom avatars? Local stuff. You can. I can't recall if you can do it with local images. You can do it from web-based stuff, but because you can do things like download image, you put in the URL and you get the texture from the website. But does this work if we put in a local address? I wonder. Never tried. Personally. I mean, you can definitely do it in C++, obviously. I wonder if this can work with local drive. If you put in like the local IP address, would that still work? I'm not entirely certain. Something I'll look into. I can't say for certain if it's doable in Blueprint, but you can definitely do that sort of thing in C++, obviously. But yes, because you obviously need a widget to do it, and on that widget you would have a horizontal box, and this box would have text on it and a button, and put some text in the button there, and this text would be like find file sort of imagery, design on screen like this, and this would be the file name, .jpeg. So it's when you activate when you click on the button, obviously, but I'm not too sure if you could open up a window for your computer. Because you have to understand there's loads of security implementations with that as well. There's lots of issues regarding what you can encourage people to upload and download into your game. You could easily upload something dangerous. I'll investigate, but I don't think you would be able to. But again, I'll investigate. Super Daniel Grango, any tips on creating buildings? How do you mean? Do you mean like the like the procedurally? Do you mean using procedural just sort of generator, or just generally just building a building? Give us some more information. Tobias Freiberg, how can I save the complete state of my game, position of player, inventory, ammo, etc.? So you're not saving a complete state of the game. It's not like you're taking a snapshot and that's it. What you got to do is take you have to save individual variables that you want into the save data class. So things like the player's position, you have to get their transform. The inventory and ammo, you get that inventory array that it's being stored as. Ammo, again, same sort of value. You're storing all that information on your save data class, and that's what gets saved to thing. You don't save like a snapshot of your world and like a freeze frame of your memory. That's not how it works. How it works, it's going to write to a read-only memory. Not read-only memory. Can't write to read-only. write to an offline sort of memory, so it can like a file that can upload later. That can read from later on. So it's not as you think it is. You have to manually pass over each of those variables. So you have to design that yourself. Anton, I guess that is. Hello, I have a building plan. I want to transfer it to Unreal Engine. What are the parameters of the walls to take? If you mean what are the dimensions and units being used, Unreal uses centimeters. Okay. Astro Cricket, hello, how have you been? I've been okay. I've been a bit busy. Been stressful here and there a couple of times, but I'm overall all okay. Thank you. Sam, hi Ryan, only recently found your channel and it's really helping. Just want to say thanks. You're welcome, Sam. Tasty Snack, how do you resolve AI collision issues where they block each other's movements, e.g. when two or more AI move along the same path at the same time? Good question. So let's show you. Let's make some basic AI. Not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to chuck in a simple mannequin. Okay. And we're going to just tell them to move to location, and we're going to give it a variable location here. So if you've never seen this trick before, if I change this to a vector, I'll call this one target location, go editable, and then show 3D widget, compile save, and I'm going to put in my nav mesh. Is this one? No, what one is it? It is that one. Nav mesh bounds volume. Okay, so there it is, and we're going to chuck in our blueprint guy, and if I click on here, I can move this sort of diamond shape, and this is going to be my target location I want him to walk towards. And if I were to take another one of these and duplicate it around, move it around like so, so they've got to walk past each other to get to their points. Now the initial issue is, oh wait, hang on, let me actually make them move to gameplay. AI move to destination. Oh wait, I have to transform it. Hang on, transform, because this gives you a local vector. I need to transform that location with the actor transform to turn it into a world vector. There we go. And I'll make it move a little bit slower so we can see this in action. Hang on, let's change that to 200. Okay, so if you leave it as is like this, and this is the issue you're facing probably. Oh, not that. Why aren't they moving? Probably this needs to be lower. No, why aren't you guys moving? Begin play. Oh, pawn. There you go. Self. Usually helps. There we go. Okay, so there's your issue that you're facing at the moment. So the easiest solution to this is you go to character movement and you go into the search box and type in RVO. And you'll see use RVO avoidance. Tick this. Now there are two avoidance algorithms in Unreal. RVO is the simplest one. You just turn that on and that is it. So anything with a character movement component will try to navigate around each other like that. Okay, so that is going to be the easiest way of doing it. Again, I'll put it on again so you can see it working. Okay, so really nice, really simple solution to making AI just avoid each other. So check out RVO avoidance. The other type is using the detour system, which is crowd. Yeah, crowd manager class. So you create a crowd manager class, and that's what is using the detour system, and that's when you use a special AI controller. Detour crowd AI controller, and in here you'll find something. Oh no, I think you do it on the crowd manager. You can do settings like make them do more advanced things, but honestly, RVO avoidance I find just works just fine. But there are two. You would have to use detour if you're using something that isn't a character movement component. So yeah. Next question is Golden Glowmaster. I might need more information about your question. He's asking, how would you make the functionality to call extraction like on the cycle to leave an open world map? Can you give me a bit more context about what it is, because I don't exactly understand. Pim, does level streaming help to reduce GPU energy while in game? Yes. The more things you have the engine wants to check to render, the better. Read. No, red squirrel's not a question. So, referring slightly back to your save system questions, if you want it to be the case where the player can open up various different save points and restore them and things like that, there are 3 types of save files you need. One is the generic save data file. This is something that your game will load up at the very start. And this will contain things like your settings, but more importantly contain the file names of all your save files. Okay, and also any other information that each of those save files will need to show the player. So that'd be like your current level, the name of the character, where they are, what time was it last saved, so forth. The other one is going to be the player save data. This will restore all the stuff the player needs on their character, so their inventory, level, HP, all that stuff. And then there's a level save data. So if you are requiring persistent levels, where levels, when you leave one and come back to it, stuff is remembered what you've done, like unlocked doors or killed enemies or whatever, or picked up items, then you need to save a file for each level too. And so you need those 3 different save file types. Now, with regards to the level one, even though there'll be multiple save files for each level, you only need to make one save file class, and that one should suffice for all of your save files, and you make it work for those different save files. I want to do more videos on saving and loading because people keep tripping up on this one, so I do want to try and have a look at that. Okay. Maud, hey, wanted to say I love the channel. How's the VoIP system in Unreal? Can this be done in Blueprint, or would you need a C++ only? You can do it in Blueprint. If you just search the documentation, you'll find it. But long story short, you have to use a component for your player character. No. You have to enable it. I think it might be a plugin you have to enable. Hang on. Voice chat. Yeah, you have to turn it on. I'm not going to do it because I have to restart the thing. But you turn it on, and it'll give you access to the component that you add onto your characters or controllers. Can't remember which one it is. But then you have to tell it what service you're going to use in the engine, the game's config files. Honestly, go check out the documentation. It's fine. It's all there. So check it out. Okay. It will really help you out. Yeah, Topornator is talking about the file utilities plugin. Yeah, you can find files in a directory. Yeah, of course there are plugins for that. That will help you. That will save all that time. Rixie, what's the best way to go about using the BP third person rather than the first person as far as interaction like you did in your UE5 inventory? So it's very much the same. The difference being is how the line trace works. So here I'm on the third person character. So if on my tick event I were to do a line trace, and there's a different way to do line tracing or sphere tracing in a third person game, and every game, not every game, but games will vary based upon what method they want to use. So for example, the starting point will usually be like the head of the character maybe. So they'll do a mesh and do get socket location, put in head, and that'll be the start point, and then the end point will be where the camera looks. So you get the player camera manager, get actor forward vector, so you get the direction they're going in, multiply it by how far they need to go. So let's say 500, and then we add that onto here. and that'll be our endpoint. And if I just put a debug on so you can see this working, why isn't it working? Pentic, head mesh. Is it not called head? Hold on. Call that head one. Head, lowercase h. That's lowercase h. And for one frame, ignore self. Yeah, okay, that should work. Oh, it is. It's hard to see because it's behind her. Because she's in, let me move the camera to the side. Hang on. So it's easy to spot. We'll do more of an over the shoulder look. We'll go to the spring arm. And where is it? There it is. 50. Okay. There we go. So you can see like the laser coming out of her head. I can look around where I'm looking here. Okay. So some people do it like that. Some people will use, rather than that, they'll look at the center of the screen and ignore the player character entirely. The benefit of doing from the player character is that I can't interact with anything behind my character. Even if my camera isn't, unless I look around like this. Yeah. So if anything that comes between my camera and the character, I can't interact with it. I have to actually look at the camera and turn it around. Okay. So that's the only major difference, is how where the trace comes from, where it starts. Okay. Stephen Kent is asking, how many keys can a map variable have in it before issues arise? I'm concerned about variable bloat in a safe file. Don't actually know. It's less of an Unreal thing and more of a computer thing, so I don't 100% sure. Hang on. Hang on. It's a lot. I know it'll be a lot. Yeah, I don't think there is a limit really. It depends heavily on, maybe like the limit is the int limit, which is depending on what kind of computer you're using. It's a lot. So obviously the more the worse, but it's still okay. You're going to be okay. Neo Masasaki, hi Ryan, hope you're doing well. Do you have a plan on continuing the building tutorial? I actually started redoing it. I got sidetracked with in real life stuff. Yeah, there you go, Tobias. Yeah, the int max is 2. Yeah, what's that? 2 billion. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, no, I did restart. I actually filmed 2 episodes of it being remade from scratch. But I got, as I say, got distracted by real life stuff and other things, and I didn't have time to do it. So, it is going to be remade at some point. It's just a matter of time when we get to it and priorities. So, yeah. Clug, how do you throw an object in multiplayer with physics and have it perfectly replicated position wise to everyone else? Is there a way to force the updated position on everyone? Yes, you can obviously force the position. Physics in multiplayer is always iffy. But if you were giving all the players the exact same variables of it being launched out, and it's a fixed value of being launched out, then you should be okay, really, most of the time. This is how like the grenades in Fire Team work. When they get launched out, they're just being given the same information across all players, so it will launch to the right trajectory. The issue arises if it's going to run across any randomness. So if you've got like other physics objects in the scene doing stuff and it's going to bounce off of those, then you get issues. Now you can force them to replicate physics, although I would recommend against that, because then you're basically sending over transformation data on like a tick event essentially, and it's going to eat up your bandwidth of your game. And yeah, I would recommend against it. But if you've got quite a simple scene with not many physics objects going in, by all means, put it in. It should be okay. It's only if you've got loads of things colliding with each other that cause issues. This is why, for example, if you play Fall Guys and the physics objects bounce off, that's why they don't actually do anything to your character. If they are physics-based objects that are not reliant on the gameplay, they'll just bounce off characters and won't actually impede them whatsoever. But if they are related to gameplay, they're usually simple things like being thrown out, and that's it. They're not going to be broken apart, and you have to mix them up, and all. Yeah, it's not going to be crazy. Fly Highland, hi Ryan, hope your family is well, thank you. They are, thankfully, and I haven't mentioned it, but in the past, some of you may be aware, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and there was all sorts of things going on there. I'm happy to announce that she is now cancer free. The treatment worked well, and so far so good, touch wood. She's gonna be okay. So cancer free. So it was a bit of a stress, but it's thankfully on the way to making it better. Question from, thank you everyone. I'll let her know that you said thanks. Congrats. Alright, Orin Gaming. Can a navigation invoker tile size generator removal be changed in runtime as needed? I want AI to be able to navigate in large maps, though I don't want the full map nav meshed. Can you change the tile size of an invoker? Runtime. Don't know. Let's take a look. We'll use my little AI guys here. Won't be able to actually test it, but we can just put one on there and see if we have access to its settings. So if you want to check if you can change things at runtime, okay, so you've got the values over here. If you can drag this out and then call those things, look, I can't, therefore I cannot change those at runtime. Okay, so tile, yep, generation, yep, no, can't change it at runtime. So no, we can't do that. So they are locked in once you've set them up. You want AI to be able to navigate in large maps, but don't want a full map to be nav meshed. I mean, you can break it down into multiple nav meshes if you want, but and then you're gonna have to have. I mean, that's what the nav invoker will do. It'll just turn on the bit they need. So, yeah. Pardon me. Pim's asking, do we have a limit of levels we can stream? Can we use level streaming as layers for our main level, or are there better ways? If you're using Unreal Engine 5, check out data layers. This is something I made a video on recently, so check it out. Data layers are really cool, useful things. So you can see over here, data layers. And these are basically work the same as layers, but they allow us to turn them off and on in blueprints. So you can really have great control over what is loaded up in your game at any one time. So data layers, really sweet. Use them. You'll see layers doesn't work when you've got data layers enabled. Data layers are enabled because we're using world partitions rather than world composition. So in Unreal 4 you can't do it, but Unreal 5 you can. Unreal Dev, show us how to generate better collision manually in a static mesh editor. Not the option just with one click auto heavy collision. Yes, okay. Actually, funny enough, I just recorded it yesterday, and it should be up to Patrons today, tomorrow, for exactly that, but I'll show you anyway live here. Okay, so I'll do the example I made in the video that I just recorded. So if I go to my chair, okay, so what Unreal Dev is referring to is if I show the simple collision of this chair here, you can see there's some issues here regarding how accurate it is. Okay, so the issues you may have with this is that, for example, I can't jump and land things on top of the chair, they'll just roll off. Okay, so it's not realistic in that sense. So how do I map things a little bit better? Now there's a couple of ways you can do it. Well, there's actually 3 ways you can do it. So the first one, I'm going to delete the collision there. I'm going to go up to collision, add box, that's not box, add box collision, and then I'm going to scale it down. Oh, let's turn off all the snaps and stuff. Scale it down and position it where I want it to be. So I'm going to bring that down into the arm of my chair. Now it isn't terribly accurate, but it is not bad. Okay, the same rules apply with this. You can hold down Alt to duplicate, and you can rotate, duplicate as well. Oh no, you can't. No, actually you can. No, okay, you can't. Just do that way then. And then put the base of the chair there, like so. And we'll duplicate this again. Okay, and you make the rough shape that you need to do. Okay, and obviously you can add as many of these things as you like. You can go nuts with it and be as accurate as you want. And if I go over here to player collision, you can see it's a lot more chair-like. Okay, so it works a lot nicer regarding like collisions and things like that. However, if you want to not do it that way, you can also do it automatically with the auto convex collision. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, you can mix and match these things together, FYI. Anyway, auto-convex collision is the second way of doing it. So when you enable this, you get this little box down here, and this is increase the hole count here. Hole count is basically how many of those shapes. So I used 4 boxes to create the whole entire thing there. If you increase that number, you'll get more boxes. Okay, obviously, the more you use, the longer it's going to take. And obviously, the more detailed the collision mesh has, the less performant it is. Hole verts is how detailed each of those are, so we'll knock that up again to 32, and how precise it will be using voxels to help calculate it. So we just turn it up a little bit too. I'm gonna hit apply and wait for that to do its thing, and you can see here it's now mapped various boxes around my shape. Okay, and I've now got even more accurate of a shape. Might be some little weird bits like, oh, maybe I don't want it like that rounded on here. Maybe I want to replace that with a box. You can do. Feel free to mess about with it as much as you like, but you can totally do that. And the third way is in actually Blender or Maya, and you can actually make model around. So you have your mesh. You can then model around the mesh, and if you name it with a specific name, when you import it in, it will turn it to a collision. Those bits to a collision mesh. I cannot remember for the life of me the prefix you have to give it. It's like UCX something or other. But yeah, you can do that. Okay. Honestly, I personally just make multiple collision boxes out here. It makes it a little bit easier. And I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to show you how to do it with skeletal characters as well. So let's go to a skeletal mesh. Okay, so let's go to our simple quid. And we're going to go to their physics asset, which is down here. So when you bring in a skeletal mesh, these are generated automatically for you. However, you can customize these. Okay, so if I wanted to, I can attach these, add more and attach them. And they are attached to bones. So for example, this bit here is attached to the upper arm, right arm. Okay, so if I was to shoot that part, it would report back it hit the upper arm R. Okay, even though it's attached to both the lower arm and clavicle, it will report back that. And sometimes you can get multiple bones attached to one shape. Okay, so for example, Trying to find an example. Probably the hands are pretty good, I think. So this hand also, sorry, then you have constraint. So they're constrained here by what they're connected to. So they're like what other capsules they're attached to. If you want to make a new one, you go along here and say, let's say I want to do, I don't know, a finger, I guess. You're gonna go add here, and you can choose a shape. So we go add like sphere, for example. There it is. And you can add this sphere, and this right moment has no attachment to anything. You can then attach it to oh, it's added it to the hand. No, is it? Easiest way to check. Hang on, for preview animation. Oh yes, it's attached to the hand. I've made it in because I had a hand selected. It made it attached to the hand, so you can change the shape of these bits too. This works really well. Let's say if I want to make a weak spot in his heart, okay, and so I want to make it a little bit easier for them to hit their heart or hit the nape of their neck or something like that. If I were to go to this chest piece here and go, okay, add sphere, okay, and I'll bring that out here. That would be my weak spot. And I can make that a certain size, like so, and I can detect when I hit that, and so forth. So pretty cool. But yeah, no, you can do stuff with that too. You can also constrain each body part so they can't bend after a certain point. So if you want to make your rig more rigid, so if they're doing like ragdoll and it looks too floppy, you can increase the constraints on those physics assets to make them not so wobbly. Next question is Jay Scott, I was wondering how difficult a card game would be to develop, something similar to Hearthstone or Yu-Gi-Oh, and did you ever consider doing some tutorials on something like that? I actually started making it. I'll show you what it is. Hold on, and I can actually load up the project because it looks quite cool. This one might be this one. So I initially started setting it up and a way of creating cards in Unreal, but I haven't got much further than that because I've been just so busy with other stuff. Haven't had time to. But it is on the card. It is on the cards to do. If I go down here and delete this monstrosity, hang on. What is this one? This is me obviously testing some stuff out. Hang on. That's the widget. That's right. So I was experimenting with ways of developing cards, and so I made like a plane that you can have like 3-dimensional depth on it, and like shininess, and obviously a back to it, so you can customize it so it has a different colored back on the side of it, and using parallax to create this sort of 3D effect. It will be coming at some point. It's not in this version of the project, so I've made a couple of projects testing stuff out. I made it so that it would print the text onto the card as well, so you can manually design the cards and things like that. But this is using a simple parallax effect. Pretty simple, nothing really major with it. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, it is something I want to do. It's just a matter of time, really. Tasty snack. How do you get the character to move as a result of being hit, e.g. from explosion or heavy blow? Okay, so there's two things to worry about there. If it's an explosion, you can launch the character. We're using the launch character node. But with being hit, you usually want to refer to a root motion animation to make the character move. You can do it with explosions too, and make them explode and fly backwards if it's a canned animation. But if you don't want animation, you can just use launch character and then do that. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. if you like the idea of cards, yeah, I say it's something I want to do because I like card games, so it'd be fun to put it out. I actually made a card game when I was in university. We had a university assignment to create a game, but a tactile game, a prototype, or like paper prototype. I made a card game, and it's very much like Yu-Gi-Oh meets Triple Triad. So I designed over 100 cards and printed out over 100 cards. I spent so much money on ink. I've got it down here somewhere behind like a bag somewhere. Well, that was fun to play. We used to play it in our lunch breaks, and that was quite cool. Maybe I'll remake that in Unreal. We'll see. But yeah. Sam, hi Ryan. I have a flip-flop to let my player switch possess between two characters with a button press. How do I slowly move the camera between the two instead of instantly snapping? Good question. So, let's see if we can do this ourselves. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these chaps. And we'll just duplicate our player character here. Duplicate. And I'll change the way they look. We'll give this one the Manny body. Okay. And we'll put him into the scene as well. So he's there. But I should spawn as Quinn. So here's Quinn and there's Manny. Okay, and if I had a button press to handle the switch over, you can do. Let's go ahead and do that. Switch character, but begin play. We want to get actor of class, third person, character 1, which is our Manny. And we'll do the same again. Third person. Character, and that'll be our Quinn. Okay, and switch character would be we'll set current as well. We'll make this a thing as well. Promote variable here again to be current player. Okay, so Quinn is the current player. On switch character, we'll do current player. If that is equal to Quinn, or tell you what, we can just do rather than that. We do get player character. I don't know why I'm doing it that way. Get player character. If it's equal to Quinn, controller to switch over to Manny. So to do that, we need to take Manny. Get player controller, and we're going to do possess, and we're going to possess Manny, and if this is false, we'll make it possess Quinn. Okay, so we've got switch character on our game mode, and what's important for this though is you need a custom player controller. Okay, so let's make a custom player controller. My PC. And in here we'll do the input to handle this. So we'll do we'll push the 1 key to toggle, and so I'll get game mode, cast to third person game mode, switch character. Okay, so let me just see if this works first of all before we go nuts with it. Let me just assign my player controller to this. So go to player controller, my PC. Okay, and if I run around here, push 1. There you go. And push 1 again. Okay, so you've got the instant snapping. Now to make it more of a transition, what you need to do is in your player controller, you need to turn off a setting. And this goes true for anything that you want to do something similar with, like processing over a car or robot or something like that. You have to go over to here and go auto manage active camera target. Turn that off. What that setting does is that when you're processing something, it will automatically try to look through a camera that it belongs to that character, that actor. But if I turn it off, I have to manually set it every single time. Okay, so when I'm doing this switch over here to switch character, I then want to customize when the controller goes, because if I don't do that, you get where it just doesn't work. So when we process this, we want to probably actually before we process it, do this. Whoop. You want to take the controller and do set view target with blend, plug that in, plug this in, and the view target will be who you want to process. So this would be Manny, so I'm going to put Manny in here, but you give it a time, blend time. So I say cake 2 seconds. Okay, but in those 2 seconds I don't want to do the processing straight away, so I'm going to go over to here and actually let's try it with, let's try it first before I break it any further. Let's put this again for false, true, Quinn, done. And as I said, we've turned it off, so we have to manually turn it back on to begin play. So set view target with blend, and so it starts the game off with our get player character. Okay, because you notice when I played it last time, it was stuck at their crotch. Okay, that's just the player camera just needing to go somewhere. So when I push this over here and I push 1, it goes over and I can move around. Okay, but the problem is if I push 1, I can still move around as a character whilst it's still transferring over. So you normally want to like stop the character movement, disable inputs, things like that, and then turn it off and turn it over to process as soon as you have control set over it. But that would be the way you go about doing it. So okay, let's go for the process of actually, if we want to actually stop them from moving. Disable input on the player controller, and this will be of Manny and Quinn, and in fact actually I'll put this on. Let's start here. Switch character, disable input for both of them, and then I've got 2 seconds of wait here, so the easiest thing to do is just put a delay in for 2 seconds. That'll do just fine. Process, and then you want to enable input back on them. Okay, so do enable input. Oh, hang on. Enable input. There we go. And put that over here. Player, that be the target, and oh, just realised I didn't put that. Oh, that's deleted by accident. Like so. So it's now going to wait 2 seconds before I can move again. So if I hit 1, I'll lose control. I can't move yet, and now I can move. Okay. Yes, we are live, Goatsy. That's more for like the archive thing. Stealth AI resources. Okay, yeah, I'll double check that and find out if they're there. is it possible to make a Monopoly style game or a slots game? We actually did slots last week, so that'd be last week's question time when it gets uploaded to YouTube, which would be next week. But that is actually in there. As for Monopoly type of game, like a board game, yeah, everything is fair game. No idea when that would ever get done, but yeah. What's the time? Okay, we've got about 7 or so minutes left. Let's see if we can find. No problem, Sam. Yeah, a lot of people don't realise about that little tick box you have to turn off. Mr. Goatsy, how do you make a character rotate in place but actually walk in place and not slide? I'm using ALS V4 as a movement system. I think ALS already does that. Does it not? I swear it did. Can you double check? It should be that. It should already be doing that. Cody Roberts, hey Ryan, do you have any videos on implementing a calendar system into a game to measure elapsed days? Elapsed days in terms of what? Actual in-game time or like real time or yeah, things like that. But not for the AI. Oh, right, okay. I'll have to have a look at how ALS is doing it, but you have to look at the difference between the delta between the rotation of the control rotation and the delta of their current rotation. And if it reaches a certain extreme, you play an animation of all the legs to do their walkie on the spot. But you need that animation. You need the animation of them walking on the spot to be able to do that. Measured in game time. Yeah, so anything to do with time, you start with now, and that will give you today's date and time. But you can reach your search for time here. You can find all the things related to do with time. So you can get like number of what day it is in the year, what month it is, what year. You can get whether or not it's morning or if it's a leap year. Yeah, and so on and so forth. So you can get all sorts of things like that. So if yeah, you can just mess about with that. I'll have to look at ALS Goatsy. I'm not familiar enough with it to know off by heart. Sam, how often these streams? Sitting here watching people's random questions answers accelerate my learning with times 100. That's great. That's what I like to see. So yeah, I do this every Wednesday. Yeah, there's no documentation. Yeah, yeah. I'll have to have a look with. I'm actually working on a project in that with ALS for someone at the moment. So I'll take a look next time I'm in that project and see. I can see for myself, and I'll mention it next time on live stream. Okay, we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions to answer. Clug's asking, have you covered how teams damage is done in Fireteam yet? Do you mean like friendly fire and turning that off? I don't think I have covered it yet. So look out for that one. Essentially when things get hit, so if I go to my player character, essentially the way it works is you get a thing called last hit by, and this will tell you what was the who rather was the controller that hit you, and then from there you can work out like what team they've been assigned, because their controller will have that sort of team variable you've assigned to them. But that's essentially how it works. You last hit by. But this is why when we do apply damage, event instigator is important. We have to pass through who is causing the damage. So if it's my player controller, it's get player controller blah 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 blah. The last hit by the receiving end will know who hit them, and so that they can work out whether or not to actually take the damage, ignore the damage, reduce it, increase it, whatever. Super Daniel Grego, what I mean by creating building interiors, I was creating one in Maya and Unreal with the starting content. Maya's small and Unreal walls aren't right position. Is it okay for solo devs to use geometry? Yeah. Yeah. Is it fine, Mr. Goatsy is asking, is it fine to handle AI within the AI pawn blueprint instead of the controller? Totally. I'm actually creating something for Fireteam, and the AI of that Fireteam thing is happening all inside of the blueprint of the character, not the controller. The reason why I would put it in the controller is I'm doing some like advanced things, and I want to reuse that same controller as well for multiple characters. I would totally do that there, but yeah. Yeah, Super Daniel Gray, yeah, check out the modeling thing. I've got a couple of videos already out regarding modeling in Unreal 5 that come out recently actually, so check them out. It's a pretty good system for like prototype stuff. Wouldn't do anything crazy with it, but you can do definitely some simple stuff with it. And best way to optimize levels with multiple meshes from Axel. Multiple meshes. Levels should be made of loads of meshes, FYI, because we use occlusion culling in Unreal, and that means if I can't see any pixels of that mesh, it doesn't render that mesh at all. If I can see just one pixel of it, it will render the whole entire thing, which you may not want for, like, let's say you're doing a massive city and you see just the tips of the buildings over the skyline. You don't want to render the whole damn building for that one little bit. So we use modular pieces to stop that from happening, and that's why we break it all down into many different pieces as possible. It also makes things a lot easier and workflow wise. If you want to make changes, you can just change one little thing rather than the whole model. So it should be it should be like as busy as possible, really, with many meshes. UE5 renders everything in a CNAP always. Anyway, I thought, no matter how many pieces, no. It still uses occlusion. If you can't see, Nanite does it a little bit differently, but it's still occluding. If you can't see the pixels, you can't see that thing, it won't render it. Nanite does it a little bit different, where it doesn't show that part of the model, that like sort of section of it. Old-fashioned models, standard regular stuff. Yeah. When should you use Nanite? Because Nanite, you want to use if you've got loads and loads of detail that you want to show off. So rather than what we used to do, is you'd use tessellation and displacement to create really detailed meshes, but it's really inefficient. Nanite is a far more efficient tool for creating those sort of same meshes. So if we're creating really detailed meshes, you want to use Nanite. Nanite doesn't work too nicely for things that are more simple, but you can definitely do it for that. It doesn't work, like, doesn't do anything bad with it. Oh, my cat. So yeah, you can do you can do like almost infinite detail with Nanite. There are some things it can't do, for example, but otherwise, yeah. So you should not use Nanite for a simple example for a simple wall. Personally, no, but you can do. It's no real harm. The difference is that you're not going to see any benefit from it. You're only going to see benefit from it if you need if you need super high detail. Tessellation needs to come back. I have a snow asset which no longer works now. Yep, it won't work. Tessellation, because tessellation, it was replaced by nanite. Because tessellation is performance-wise bad compared to nanite, anyway. Daniel BM, hi Ryan, I watched your video about level instancing, but I'm confused about why would I use a level instance blueprint instead of just a regular blueprint. Could you explain? Sure. So let's say, for example, I'm creating, let's say I'm working on a team of 100 people. Okay, and we're building a giant city. Before level instancing and Unreal 5. The way we would work on that level would be only one person allowed in that main level at a time. You couldn't really do much more than that. With level instancing though, if each of your buildings are in a different level instance, I could have that person over there working and creating a level instance, and when they save and update it, it will reflect straight away in my one without them having to open up my project. Likewise, other people can be editing their stuff and they'll see it all interconnect and work together like that. So really, really, really useful for teams to work together on. Okay, that's its main appeal. The other appeal, for example, is let's say we want to build a studio sort of building effect, and I want to make a single wall, and I place this wall in all over the place. If I make that wall a level instance, I can edit and change things about that, and once I change it there, it'll then go through and change it the whole entire level. Now I could make a whole that into a blueprint, but well, obviously what level instancing does better is rather than putting a ton of components in here to create your detailed buildings or worlds, things like that, they can be now stored and organized the way a level can instead, which makes it a lot easier to manage what you're doing and keep things organized with like data layers and all that stuff. So it allows you a lot more control over it. But its number one thing is definitely working in teams. It's really good for that. Okay, we're gonna have one more question. Let's see if we can find a good question to answer. Tom Reitner, question: is there a way to use a thumbnail of a static mesh and turn it into a texture 2D to use it as a thumbnail for creating icon inventory, for example? Yes, I actually do this. It's a bit of a winded setup, but I'll show you. Essentially what I do is I create a photo studio. Photo studio, and in here, if I want to show off an item or whatever, okay, I'll have a static mesh set up, okay, component, but in here I'll also have a spring arm, and I'll also have a camera attach that spring arm, and this mesh then I can swap out to whatever I want, but also add lighting in here. This is why I call it a photo studio, because I can add things like spotlights and light my subject the way you would do it in the actual studio. So I'll put him over here, rotate it over there. Let's give it a mesh so we can actually see what the hell we're doing. Do a chair. Okay, and let's turn this thing around. Cool. So this thing's going to light this thing. Like that. You probably have another one at some point. These sort of things, you know, you go on like that. But anyway, you make the camera work however you want, get it in position, and then you put it into your scene. Like so. Okay, and we may have to tweak the spring arm a little bit, so I'm just going to do that on the other screen here. Bring that in like this. Okay. And then I want to make sure this mesh is using custom depth. Like so. And then what I do to create all my thumbnails, if I'm using the 3D models for the thumbnails, is I just go into my high resolution screenshot, brings up this menu. I'm gonna oh, hold on, I need to make sure I'm in this view. Hang on, let's just go into pilot. There you go. So yeah, we're gonna go hit G to hide all the UI stuff, then go to high res screenshot, and you can choose if you want to upscale it, you can do, but we can use custom depth as mask. And now I'll click capture, and I've now got a PNG of my thing that I can use in Photoshop, whatever, to decorate it, export it, import it, whatever I want, like that. But yeah, and that's what I do, and I use a photo studio because then that way, if I swap out the chair for another mesh, the lighting and the camera position, all that stuff are the same. I haven't done anything to it. It will remain exactly the same. Therefore, you have like consistent lighting, consistent settings of the camera, consistent F distance, all that stuff is the same. Therefore, nothing looks really out of place. But that's what I do. And if you wanted to use the same tool here to make it use in-game like inspection modes, which I usually often do, is I change the camera here to a scene capture component, and I will render that to a texture which I can then use on my UI from my widgets to create menus. But that is just using a scene capture component rather than a camera. Otherwise than that, it works the exact same time. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for your questions today, and hopefully you enjoyed this question time. If you like what I do and want to see more of my videos early before anyone else, please consider your supporting me over on patreon.com/RyanLately. Your donations get you access to all my videos early before anyone else, as well as some other benefits too, and some extra bits and pieces as well. I want to say a massive thank you to all my patrons and YouTube members for their continued support in myself and the channel, and thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.